All right. Thanks for joining us today. We are here today and with a special guest. And if you are wanting to start paid traffic, my guest today has managed over $150 million in paid traffic. He's a ninja at tracking and building offers and scaling. And he has over 26 networks. He's ran this traffic, something like that. And he is an amazing guy. Thanks, John Belcher, for joining us. We are here today and we're going to rock. So this is like, if you're a business owner and you're wanting to scale paid traffic and like get your offer out there on Facebook, Google, other platforms, and if you're wanting to know how I can actually scale it, that's what you're going to learn today. Thanks, John, for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tim. Excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So let's start out. John, give a little backdrop about kind of what you've done, what is your history, and like tell a little bit of insight about who you are.
Yeah, so a lot of people could refer to me as kind of a tracking guy in the paid traffic world. I'm actually a sales guy. I started out selling medical device. I love selling. The reason I became a tracking guy and doing paid traffic is because if sales weren't working, I had to understand why. Everyone's heard of a funnel, but I think when I worked at Google for a period of time, and we had a really interesting consultant come in and kind of break down the ratios in the sales process.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's awesome. I want to go learn how to do that digitally so I can figure out where a process is broken and fix it so we can sell more stuff. And that's really the last 10 years I've been learning how to
Yeah.
do all of the tracking pieces to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, he spent 150 million in paid ads across 26 networks. And it's like, what the key is, like, if you want to scale a product or service, like you've got to know how to track. So like, what is the key, John? I mean, this is a loaded question. I'm gonna start out with a loaded question. What's the key to like scaling an offer on paid media? How do you do it? Like, where do you start if somebody's just like trying to get going in Facebook and Google? What would you recommend? How would they like? What's the foundation of that?
Yeah, so I say this. I know Alex Hormozy says this. A lot of people follow Alex Hormozy. Simple
Yeah,
scales, right? At the end of the day, simple scales. And so
yeah,
what's really important is as you're starting the process with paid traffic, or even if you're at a a certain volume and you're stuck,
yeah,
it's going back to simplicity and measurement. And
yeah,
it's really important to understand. A lot of people think if I throw up 100 ads, I'm going to find something that's going to be the perfect ad and is
yeah,
going to help me sell $100 million. And it's not, it's incremental. What's really important is you're going to find ads that work. But if you continue to measure your funnel, you're going to find, hey, I have ads that are producing good click rates and getting people to add to cart, but they're not finishing the process of purchasing. And
yeah,
so it's really important to dig in there and say, okay, people are
yeah.
adding to cart but not purchasing. They don't like the offer. So we have to go through and restructure our offer. And so that's just kind of that part of having the ability to understand in your sales process, where is it breaking down that's keeping you from hitting your numbers so you can fix it so you can start scaling again.
All right. What's more important, the offer or the ad?
Uh, you can sell a lot of stuff with good offers and bad ads. You can't do it the other way around. So the offer for sure.
The offer for sure. And do you look at like, so what's the most important thing if you're saying, hey, I want a good offer? Like give some examples of like, how would you think through an offer, like a product or an offer that is a good offer? So where would you start? What's your kind of framework for a good offer that you think?
Yeah, so if you haven't heard the name Justin Brook founded Ad Skills. I was his partner for quite a while, and we went through and built that up. And one of the things I learned from Justin and Shauna was a process called market map. So it's where you sit down and you look at your industry and you say, what are the other options out there? And what's really important from an offer perspective is understanding your unique value prop and then how you want your pricing to be. So, I always like working with people who have premium price products because
Yeah.
you're going to have good customer lifetime value. And so a lot of times if something's not working, people go, we need to drop the price. I say, no, not really. You
Yeah.
need to focus on justifying the value of why you're offering something better than other people are, because people are willing to pay for better options.
Yeah.
And so, as we kind of come back here to the discussion about your offer, you need to lay out your marketplace a little bit, understand where your offer fits in, the
Yeah.
quality of your product. A lot of times people talk about speed, quality, and price. Those are kind of the three areas of the triangle.
Mhm.
And so it's really important to kind of understand where you fit in.
Mhm.
And then from there, a big portion of the offer is the positioning.
Yeah.
Here's what we do. Here's why it's better than other people on the market. And here's all of the components that the benefits you get and the components you get in the offer to make people want to buy it. I find a lot of times people are just like, here's the thing that we sell at this price. You have to figure out why you want to buy it. And
Yeah.
it's so important that you know, people need to be told specifically why they should purchase this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just really important to understand that positioning and then lay out your sales message.
Yeah, and one of the things too, and we like I personally sold a ton in the golf space. And one of the keys, like you talk about kind of a new thing, it's like when I'm thinking through an offer, I create new categories of products. So it's like you might like a way a framework I use is like, okay, I would say like in golf, for instance, like we had a fairway wood, right, and an iron. And I was like, how could I create like this ultimate fairway wood that's not a fairway wood, but it's an iron blended with a fairway wood that's called an X metal. So it's like a new category of a product that's outside of the category. So it's like one thing that I think when you're making a good offer is think about how you can make a new category that's never been thought about before, right? And that's
Mhm.
like a super attractive thing. So I think it's like I think my opinion now after being, in the space for 15 years and luckily doing like 200 million in sales is like the category of the offer that it's something new is super attractive. Like it's something new. It's not the same gadget. Then you're competing in the same boat with everybody else. I mean, would you kind of agree some of the best offers you've seen are super sexy offers, like cool offers, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can be innovative in the space, it absolutely helps.
Yeah.
But if you have something that's a little bit more commoditized, it's really figuring out what is unique and what is the appeal in
Yeah.
that market. So a lot of times, if you're not creating something new, it's finding your niche of people and making sure that you're really clearly explaining why this is superior to that.
Yeah.
So innovation first,
Yeah.
but if you don't have something that's brand new, figuring out how to position that part in the market, those are kind of the two factors that you can go after for offers.
Yeah. And like it's no matter how good the ads can only amplify the offer the way you probably see this in paid media. But it's like the ads can only go so far. If the product's not selling converting, like you can't buy any more ads. Would you agree to that? How would you look at the ad versus the offer and scaling that?
Yeah, so one of the stops along my path was at a affiliate network called Giddy Up, and just to
Yeah.
kind of explain there, what Giddy Up does is find unique products on the marketplace, and then gets affiliate traffic to buy to it.
Yeah.
And I was building an internal media team for them, and so we got to run traffic for dozens of offers.
Yeah.
And what you see is like the 80-20 rule to the max, 20% of the offers do 80% of the volume just because there's a nice niche. And
Yeah.
so trying a million ads for one offer, you'd probably be better off trying 10 ads for if you can put together five offers, finding
Yeah.
something that'll work. The offer play is really important.
Yeah, the offer play. Yeah, I agree. I would put it's not about hey how many products in my background too. It's not how many products can we create. It's about the one product. Even in our business that we scaled so big, did 80% of the lifting. Right. So it's
Mhm.
like finding that one product that you can scale to the moon and then make iterations of that. That's super interesting. So what do you see? So back. Let's go to like one company you helped scale from 30 to 45 million, Lady Boss. What was the key takeaway there? How did you do that?
Yeah, so when I entered the business, they were doing $30 million a year. They were growing extremely quickly, but they'd hit a scaling plateau. And that's kind of a big experience that I'm familiar with is people bring me in and they're like, "Hey, we've been doing this well for a long time and now we're stuck."
Yeah.
And so first thing I did is I came in and installed some tracking so I could see what was going on in their sales process. They were making hundreds of ads a month, but they just hit this spot where it wasn't working any longer. And so the first thing after reviewing data for about a week, I'd identified they had a really good add to cart rate, but their purchase rate wasn't in line with the benchmark of what I'm used to seeing. And
Mhm.
so I kind of dug in their offer and I said, "Okay, you've got this meal replacement product that hundreds of thousands of women like, but there has to be something else here. You have a premium price product. What else are you offering with it? And they're like, oh, we give it, $1,200 worth of bonuses. And I was like, in the checkout process, you do not mention that at all.
Yeah.
So we went through and we changed their order form so that people started the process. And then before they hit the price, they got this full page layout of all of the bonuses they were going to get before they hit that price. And it's like, here's the line item. It's 1,200, $1,200 in free bonuses
Yeah.
just for buying this little bag of meal replacement. And so when they got to that price, they were now like, hey, I may be paying 60, 80, $100 for these meal replacements, but I'm getting all this other value. Well, instantly our conversion rate went up 20% when we went and implemented that. So boom, bottleneck removed, had the ability to go scale. And then the next thing we did is we came back and we reworked their ads to make sure it was very much calling out to their market, which was busy moms. So we filmed an ad that follows a very standard, if anyone wants to look it up, it's called David Fry's 12-step foolproof sales letter template. He
Yeah.
wrote it in the 1980s and it's
Yeah.
worked for me every single day. It's a formula for how you sell stuff. Went and wrote an ad that did it, and we sold out all their inventory in 5 days because we had a well-structured message
Yeah.
that went to a page that was proven to convert, and kind of the rest is history.
Yeah. It's a great point. It's like if you have an offer that you can go into, like whatever your offer is, I mean, and you're basically saying they got a 20% increase on the conversion rate, allowed them to scale to 30, 45 million. It comes down to if you can go to Facebook, put $1 in and get $2 out. Wow. I mean, you can
Mhm.
scale a company to the moon, right? And it's like that's the power I think I learned too is like acquiring customers is all about putting $1 in Facebook and getting $2 out of that customer. And like whatever the lifetime value of that customer is, it's like at any business to acquire customers, you got to know how much, what do I pay to get a customer and how much are they worth, right? And it's like, then you can just scale the moon. But wouldn't you agree at a base level, people don't understand their metrics? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
And where we're at, we're talking in 2024, right? 5 years ago, it was pretty easy to acquire people on the front end profitably. So people were just sitting here making it rain, right? You're just making money right on day zero, and now it's all gravy from there.
yeah,
It's harder now than it was. There's more
yeah,
competition, there's more offers, there's things like that. And so knowing your metrics is more important than ever, especially because you may have to go negative at the beginning. And you have to know when you're breaking even so that you can continue to scale up your company's cash flow is important, right? You
yeah,
know that as well as anybody. Like cash
yeah.
flow is the lifeblood of business. And if you're not aware of these numbers, it can get away from you quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, and one reference to that, I mean, like I was lucky enough to interview the CMO of Guthrie Rinker at the time, and they were behind like Proactive, Cindy Crawford, Meaningful Beauty. They scaled the company to 1.5 billion. We talked to the CMO, and so the CMO was like, "Yeah, when we went to Facebook or Google to run ads, like we didn't make our money back for like 27 months."
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, and most people go to Facebook and they go to Google and they say, hey, I want to put my ad up or my offer up. And like, they're like, oh, well, I spent like $100 and only got $20 back. I'm like, yeah, welcome to paid advertising. Right. I
Yep.
mean, like you're not going to make money. It's like, how long can you break even? Then
Mhm.
you acquire those customers, then you make money through time. Your profit might come at day 30 or day 50 or day 250, but it's like, would you agree? Like, what's your lens you look at? Like, how to acquire customers and what's your payback period?
Yeah, I mean that really depends on the market. There are some markets where you can acquire people profitably, and it really comes down to the size of your offer, right? There's some higher
Yeah,
ticket things where you can acquire people and make money on the front end. On the e-commerce side, what this really has become for about, in my eyes, is I really work with people on trying to buy on contribution margin, which without getting too technical, you've got your gross revenue, you subtract all of your costs like shipping, tax,
yeah,
cost of goods, refunds, etc. And then you subtract your ad spend and you divide that by the number of customers you acquired, and it tells you how much am I making or losing on day zero. And then the goal from there is to understand how many dollars do I make back every month. And
yeah,
so if you're negative 20 and you make $20 a month, cool, after a month you're good. What I've really found with people from a cash flow perspective is 30 to 60 days is a really good time frame to be able to be break even or profitable if you're
Yeah.
not selling $5,000 packages. That's a really good time frame. And so understanding, okay, if we're making $50 in gross profit over the first 2 months, if you can be negative 50 on that first day and then be break even, so you're making money from there, you're in a really good spot.
So basically, on a fourth grade level, be prepared if you're starting ads or you're running ads to lose money way
Mhm.
before you make money, right? And that's the key takeaway. What do you see like with the most profitable companies that you work with? What is their strategy to paid ads and advertising?
Um, so the first thing is it's changed a lot over the last few years. I think that's a really, really important thing to understand. I think a lot of people still have expectations from a few years ago of what's possible. So that's the first thing just to kind of talk about is like the reality has changed.
Yeah.
When I look at the most profitable companies, they're really focused on subscriptions and LTV. I don't really see any big companies anymore. If they're not selling, a 10, 20, $30,000 package, they are hyper focused right now on getting someone in the door and getting them on a subscription for something to make sure they can continue to win back their money.
Yeah.
I would say subscriptions are really the biggest thing. And so what's important there is having an offer to get someone in the door and then having a continuity offer that continues to earn money. Those are really the two things that are so important for you to consider. And one of the best ways to do that is with communities.
Communities. That's a great point. So it's like it seems like now there's the consumers are much smarter than they're seeing so many different offers on social media, and it's like the amount of touch points they need before they purchase has just increased compared to like 5 years ago, right?
Mhm.
So it's like when can you explain like top of funnel, which is like your first touch point with a customer, versus mid, back of funnel? Like, how do you view that overall when somebody's like running traffic?
This is a complicated question, so I'm going to do my best to keep it simple.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer, so like one of my mottos is called one-click conversion.
yeah,
In my eyes, what I'm trying to optimize for is making it so that my message is so clear and my offer so enticing that I can get someone to buy on the first contact. Because once again, there's so many other options out there. There's so many other things going on.
yeah,
The ability to do retargeting and email follow-ups and SMS and those types of things, they're not as effective as they were a little bit ago. And
yeah,
so really the ability for me to continue to help people scale has been how do I help you optimize these sessions so that we can maximize the number of people coming through the door right now? And I think a lot of people talk about, hey, paid traffic on average, only 2 to 3% of people buy on the first try. Well, if you're at 2% and you can get to 3.5%, you just grew your company by 60%, right? It's
yeah,
massive. And so that's kind of that part for me is really focusing on that first touch. And then from there, it's ensuring that you have good tracking so that you can understand as you're doing follow-up touches what is really moving people forward in the process.
yeah,
General retargeting is not a great thing anymore.
yeah,
But the other thing that I've found is if you're not getting them with the first touch, instead of trying to get them three, four, 5 times back to the same offer, having another offer to send them to is super valuable. And that's where
yeah,
you can talk about product libraries. You know this probably as well as anybody. If they don't buy this club, instead of showing them this club again, let me show them this club over here. Let me show them this bundle or these other
yeah,
things that are going on.
yeah,
That's really where the leverage comes in.
yeah. I agree. Wait, so it's interesting. Like, I think sometimes it's important, like in all of our businesses, when we drive traffic, it's like you're looking at you're driving traffic to a certain offer to your website, and it's like the thing I struggle with, and tell me if I'm right, is like how do you identify the biggest constraint that drives the most profit in the process, right? So is it my Facebook ad? Is it when they land on my page, it's the conversion rate? Is it the price? Is it like all these things I'm thinking through, like how do you identify the biggest constraint and the one thing to focus on that drives the most profit for the business? What do you see as the biggest constraint on a lot of this?
Yeah, so that's literally what I do for a living is
Yeah.
focusing on finding bottlenecks. So I actually just wrote this out into a message to a friend. So I'm just going to kind of explain this here quickly is first thing you have to do is lay out every step in your sales process. So you have ad impression and you have a view of your ad, you have a click, you have your landing page load, you have an add to cart, you have a checkout, you have a purchase, and you have an upsell, right? So let's say that's your full setup. You have to be able to see all of those steps individually. The next piece is you have to implement tracking that allows you to see the performance at every step. And then what you do is you go down to the metric you care about. So what I always laugh at is everyone goes, I don't care what the costs are as long as my CPA is this. I'm like, well, you better care about the costs at every single step because those make up your CPAs. So
Mhm.
once you get your sales process laid out, you go write down, my goal is to acquire a customer for $100 or less. Okay, great. So we have that goal of $100. Now we have to understand the ratio at every single step in your process. So we have that data. We can sit down and say, okay, it's $100 for a purchase, and you get 1 out of 3 people who add to cart to purchase, you can afford $33 for an add to carts. And you just go backtrack your way through that. And
Mhm.
being able to do that, now you can understand what you can afford at every step. I'm a big Excel fan, so I use conditional formatting on everything so I can see what are the colors with it. And we just find out what is the thing that is violating our benchmark the most.
Mhm.
If we go fix that thing, that now turns into a profit lever that everything else works. And the fun part about it is you can not only just spend more, let's say we're using Facebook traffic, you don't just spend more on Facebook, you now can start to spend on YouTube or TikTok or Snapchat or Native or any of these other networks. Once again, my motto is simple scales.
Yeah.
I'm not a sophisticated media buyer. My media buying is really boring. I just look for that lever that's going to
Yeah.
make the biggest difference so I can go through and help people diversify and scale.
That's great. And it drives the most profit. And tell me if I'm right, it's a bunch of little things that move the needle to get where you're going, right? I mean, if like John says, if you're convert, let's just say you drive 100 people to your website and 2 people buy, right? And you made 200 bucks. If you drive 100 people to your website and 4 people buy, over time, that's 2x your revenue. So if
Yeah,
you're doing a million a year, now you're doing 2 million a year. That's how powerful like your conversion rate and getting people to buy is, right?
absolutely. And a lot of times, what I've found with people, I'll use another supplement example. I got a client that their agency was helping them acquire customers for $700.
Wow.
They could afford like maybe 100. I spent a month. I found that the add to cart rate was the problem. So I spent a month writing advertorials to find one that got our add to cart rate down and I or got our cart rate up and our cost per add to cart down. And I
Yep.
got their CPAs from 700 to $25 just by writing advertorials that would did a better job of explaining and positioning the product. Took them from 100 sales a month to 1,000 in 30 days, and they had subscriptions on the back of that and all of those things. And so that's kind of that part where it doesn't matter if you're new to paid traffic or you have a business doing 10 or 20 million dollars a year. I do this with everybody. I have a client that does 45 million dollars a year, and they do health VSLs, and we put a landing page after their VSL that did a better job explaining the product, and we doubled the conversion rate on a funnel that had been running for 9 years. We just went and put a page after the VSL and we cut their CPAs in half so we went and could double our volume that we were spending. And so it's the same game. It really doesn't matter the size of your business. It's just incremental wins that can help you get to that next level of scale. People think scale looks like this. To me, scale is a stair step.
Yeah.
It's one win at a time is going to make the big difference.
So the client that went from you said 100 orders a day to 1,000 because of you put an advertorial on you were running ads from the click to the advertorial. Explain what an advertorial is for somebody that doesn't know.
Yeah, so a lot of times the e-commerce, so let's just talk about Tim's business for a second, right? You sell golf clubs. And
Yeah.
and if you run an ad to a landing page for a golf club, a few people will buy, right? There's people who are interested in golf, so a few people will buy. 5 years ago, when it was 10-cent clicks, all the numbers worked, right? Great, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But what's really important is in today's day and age where we're talking about positioning and explaining what it is that makes your product valuable to that customer, you can't just run an ad to the store and people will just buy. So what you do is you put a page, we call it bridge pages, advertorials, landing pages, whatever you want to call.
Yeah.
You're putting a page between your ad and your product
Yeah.
that goes through and lays out that full sales message. Someone can understand the value. So by the time they get to that product page, that intent to buy is
Yeah.
drastically higher.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like an analogy would be like, yeah, you see a girl and you want to date her, but you ask her to date right away versus like, oh, providing context and like giving value and then doing the ask, right? So it's like I see most people like they click on the ad and they ask them to buy and they don't have no clue who you are. So you're basically saying give them some context about what they're buying before. So a lot of the strategy was called is moving the free line, which is basically giving them free stuff so they trust you and they do that. So example of this in one of the companies that we own, we tested saying, hey, I'll give you a free analysis. So we drove these people into a free analysis of what they're getting, a free assessment. They got this like 10-minute free assessment and they would close 70% of the people. So in your business, think about what can I give away for free that then gets them to trust, know, and like you, and then they buy. Would you agree that's a great strategy?
It is. And once again, I think what's so important is what you're talking about. I call these the hidden menus of paid traffic.
Yeah.
So when you run into a bottleneck, it's important to have a menu of different things you can try to improve that metric, right?
Mhm.
When my example of advertorials, we didn't give them anything for free. We just gave more context about the value of the product. What you're talking about makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense. You have the ability to demonstrate value, which makes them want to become customers. There's a
Yeah.
million ways to skin this cat. You can do with a 15-minute video training that's really a VSL that's selling your product. You can get
Yeah.
them into a webinar that's 3 hours. Like there's a million ways to skin the cat. It's
Mhm.
important for you to have the menu because what a lot of people do is they'll try one thing and it won't work and they quit. And it's just like, no, you have to keep working through this because there is a way to bridge that gap. It's just going to
Yeah.
take some persistence.
Yeah. Like one thing I see too, tell me if you think I'm right. Like people that like we live in kind of this like Facebook ads and we like Google ads and everything. But I still think people underestimate how fast you can scale a business on the back of Facebook and Google ads. And so if you really have an offer that's converting, right, that you can scale, can you give some examples of like, hey, I worked with this company and their offer worked and their price point worked and they were able to scale from zero to this many orders within so many months? Because you can build an 8-figure business on the back of Facebook and Google in the right market in a matter of months, literally. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah, so
you know,
you are right. I agree with you. And just to frame it, so while faith, while online advertising is harder now than it was 5 years ago, it's still the best thing that's ever existed in the history of mankind, right? We
yeah,
can pay pennies to
yeah,
reach people on the internet in bulk and they can come on our website and buy. And a lot of times you don't have this huge, if you think of like a Rockefeller buying like all this stuff, having all this debt to
yeah,
be able to go build all these things, like we live in an awesome time.
yeah,
And so the ability to leverage Facebook, Google, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest, like there are so many platforms out there. Quora is one of my favorite platforms. It's really cheap and it gives really good targeted audience. So like there's a lot of opportunities with things like that. But at
mhm,
the end of the day, there's so much opportunity out there. Once again, as you talked about innovating instead of just being me too,
yeah,
there's if you can come up with something that is useful to people, there's actually utilization. People you can scale to the moon like crazy. And once again, so as you were asking kind of for an example, when I was at Giddy Up, there was a couple products that came through the door that we were able to go through, and they'd had a little bit of success. We
mhm,
just went through our creative process, and we were able to take one. It was a car sensor that plugged in that told you why your check engine light was on. I scaled them on YouTube from $0 a day to $35,000 a day in spend. I'm pretty sure our CPAs were like $70, so I'm pretty sure that was 500 orders a day within like 2 weeks just because they had a product that people were like, I don't want to pay this mechanic Mechanics call it the idiot light because you bring your car in like an idiot and you had to pay, $150 every time you bring it in. Or I can pay $60 for this thing it's an app on my phone that's going to tell me why this is on and whether I need to take it into the shop. Like, it's just looking at utility and figuring out what's actually useful for people that they're willing to spend their money on. Because people are they want to buy stuff. You just have to explain the utility to them.
So that's like, I mean, 500 orders. What was the price point on that? Do you scale?
It was $70 for a single or like 100 for two.
Yeah. Yeah. So $35,000 a day in spend. So basically, like, the key is in 2 weeks, is that right? 2 weeks. And
Yep.
it's like, think about this. Don't look at ad spend as ad spend. Look at ad spend as like, it's all financed by the product. So essentially it's client finance acquisition. So like you're paying 35,000, but your revenue might be 50 to 55,000 in
Yep.
2 weeks. That's the power of like getting your offer right and scaling on these paid channels and like just being relentless and figuring out like testing offers, testing your landing page, your ad. The power of Facebook and Google for the person that hasn't lived in this world, like you can scale to thousands and thousands of dollars a day in a matter. I mean, you can spend 10,000 a day on Facebook in about 2 seconds, right? I mean,
Oh, for sure. But once again, what a lot of clients ask me when we start is like, how much do we need to spend to test? And I'm like, you don't really have to spend that much to start getting data,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You can get in, and if you start to have some analytics and you can figure out where your bottlenecks are,
yeah,
that client that I took from 100 to 1,000 orders, that supplement client, we would only spend a couple $100 on tests to get clicks to understand where we
yeah,
were stuck. We'd
yeah,
go back and work on the next round and do it again, and then all of a sudden we cracked it and boom, right? And so it's just that part where it's like you don't have to have this massive amount of data. It's pretty easy to tell how your sales funnel is performing.
yeah.
Fix the bottlenecks, and once you remove it, all these orders come flooding in. You're gonna have bigger problems where it's like, hey, we're running out of inventory, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that's the thing about it. If like you don't need a lot of startup capital, if you literally have a credit card to buy ads, right? You know immediately. I spent $50 today and got $75 back on day one. You know immediately by the hour what you're spending, and so it's like it's insane. Like you don't need all this startup capital, and you're not putting it on billboards, and you're not like it's like the time to response on Facebook, you know immediately what you're spending and getting back. So it's like if it works, you just push on the gas and spend more money and get more money. So it's like it's so powerful to figure out how to get your business started on Facebook and Google running ads. Um, Last question: what do you think makes a great ad? Like if somebody's like, "Hey, I'm going to put an ad out there. You've seen a million ads. I need to start ads." Would you say like get a video ad, a text ad, an image ad? What do you see for the person that's trying to like get started on Facebook and Google? What do you see working the best? You know?
Yeah, so there are different strokes for different folks. I've had so much more success with video, so I would always advocate for video. And the nice part is we do a lot of video production with Canva. So I'm going to recommend two things. Do AI voiceovers with 11 Labs. They're awesome. It's $22 a month for 90,000 characters, and the voices are great. So you just type in what you want it to say, and it spits out, and it actually sounds pretty much like a human. I've
11 labs, 11
Yep,
labs. Okay.
yep. Really, really good product. And then secondary, Canva. You can put that voiceover footage with Canva's free, or you can pay $12 a month for the pro. And it gets you access to stock video footage, and you can go through and make a video. Super simple,
Yeah.
easy way to get started. You don't have to go buy hire someone to film a bunch of stuff. Just start by laying out a sales message. So once again, I'll go back to David Fry, 12-step sales, foolproof sales letter. I'll give it to you. You can put the link in the
Yeah.
description. The other thing that we do, so we have an acronym, it's four letters, HAIR, HAIR. The hook, you have the beginning of your ad, the first 5 seconds, be something that screams out to your audience, hey, this is for you. What are all of your ads? It's golf, right? It
Yeah.
has to be something that calls out to the audience.
Yeah.
So
Benefit.
your hook, exactly. Your hook is important to make sure you're calling out to the right audience. A is what we call the angle. And to me, when I'm thinking about angles, there's three that we focus on. One is called the end user problem. Do you have a problem with chipping? Yes. Okay, then you need to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
The second is what we call an existing solution problem. Does your 8 iron get stuck in the mud when you try and chip? Okay, so your 8 iron is your current solution, and we have a better solution for you. And then the third is what we call an opportunity angle, which is this new club can help you make sure that you never miss the green with a chip again, right? Those are kind of the three different things that we look at. So you have a problem with chipping. This is the problem with chipping with an 8 iron, your existing solution, or we have this new thing that we've invented that can help you avoid this pain or gain these things, right? Those are the three hooks that we go after. And every time without fail, one of them works. You're going to
Yeah.
figure out calling out to your market which one's important. I is for introduction to your offer. And that's where you go through and you explain, here's our product. This is what makes it awesome. Better and better than anything else on the market. You're going to love it for these reasons. And then response is right now we're having a promo with it. You can click and get all the details. Boom. And if you just have those things in a 60-second ad, you can have so much success because you've captured someone's attention, you've explained how your solution can help them,
Yeah.
you've introduced what the product is, what it's called, why they'll like it, and you've given them a call to action. That's all you
Mhm.
have to do.
So yeah, so okay, if I went to 11 Lab, you could use AI to do all this. Like, what's the cost to go to 11 Labs, do an AI voiceover, type it in, go to Canva, do the ad. You could have an ad up in an hour. I mean, 30 minutes. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
you probably do it in an hour, and I'm pretty sure they both have free tiers that you could do that. You could do it for no money down,
yeah. So,
which is
so
which is incredible.
it's incredible. You could have literally what looks like a human on an ad, scripted perfectly with Canva in 45 minutes, and like testing this in your brand and test the hook. So you might take, like, you want to test a different hook for an ad. So you have a service based business or something. Like, if it's, say it's, come in for this service based, so like if it's a massage therapy, like come in for this special massage therapy. This person's like giving you like a free assessment. You could do that in 30 minutes and test it on Facebook and give it to your ad agency that's running your ads, and you could literally be up and running and like testing ads. Because I think testing ads, what I found is like you got to test different angles to know what works. If you get 10 one that works, go all in on that one. But most people just don't test enough ads and like hooks on what people want. You never know unless you test it, right? I mean,
Yeah, so you and I were talking about this really briefly. I'll keep this short. A lot of people think that you build success with advertising. I think of it the other way. I think about it like gold mining. You drill holes in the dirt to see if there's any gold there, and if you find any, then you go clear it out and you start digging
yeah,
for more, right? And so it's really important that when you're doing your testing, you're like, I just need to go see, is there any gold in the ground around this angle?
yeah,
And like I said, if you do all three of them, most of the time you're going to find one of them works great, and then you just go make more of those.
yeah. Most people do zero of that. So it's like they'll get up, they'll go like they go to an ad agency, they give them an ad. The ad agency doesn't know how to make good ads. They put up a text ad or they put up a there's no video ads and like, oh yeah, Facebook advertising doesn't work. But it's because you didn't test enough stuff, right? So go test 10 ads, 10 video ads, 10 text ads, run it to your offer, and then you just keep improving the process. And like you can have an 8-figure business on Facebook or Google if you have a good product, that if you just keep going and doing it right. It's very powerful, that engine. But
Yeah, and
um
I think a lot of reason that people do that is they don't like the thought of being salesy. That's their fear.
yeah,
To me, sales isn't about pushing something on someone. It's about explaining to them why they
yeah,
would value what it is that you have.
yeah,
And if you're expecting someone to convince themselves of that,
yeah,
you're mistaken. It's
yeah,
your job to make that message clear so that people want to move forward in your sales process.
yeah. And do it like you care about this person. And we're all assuming, like when we're talking about this, that your product has to help people. So first of all, I'd start off with a product that really helps people, that if
Mhm.
you gave it to your grandpa, he would want to tell all his other friends, right? Okay, and then you know you got something, right? I would start out like offering something for free if you're starting a product or service. Give it to somebody and let them tell you how bad it is and improve it, improve it, improve it to the point you can then go to Facebook and then scale it and get a compounding return because that person is going to give you referrals. So it's like
Mhm.
it's this constant iteration of finding the right product that works and then getting it on paid media to amplify it. But don't start out with a bad product where you got negative churn and people don't want it or return it or something like that. So spend time getting a great product. I definitely say that's important. that's assessment, but
Makes a big difference.
it does make a difference, right? So go to your grandpa, give him the product. I'm just kidding. Awesome, man. This has been great. This has been really cool. So where can they learn more about you? They go, where are you at? What socials are you
Yeah,
on?
I would say the biggest thing is go to my website. It's just john at johntbelcher.com. That's my
Okay.
name. It's easy to find me there. I have my email on there, and I do write on Facebook and Medium. I will be doing that more here in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been in the lab getting my product right for everything. So um, that's been where I'm at. But if there's something I can do to help out in your journey with paid traffic, more than happy to do so.
Yeah. John's amazing. He's a real pro. He's a great guy. We've worked together. So go check him out. Thanks, John. This has been great, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah.